shortly. We're just going to let everybody kind of filter in for a minute, and then we'll get it rolling.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody today? Errol.
Hey.
Oops.
Good afternoon, folks.
Hi, Lance.
Hiya, Katie.
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Hi, Errol.
Hey, how are you?
Good yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Excellent.
How things going there?
It's always a turmoil in Africa, right?
That's for sure. Well, based on some of my WhatsApp groups with my South African friends, there was much excitement. I think South Africa had a big win at the Olympics the other night or last night.
Surfing, we've got a silver. Swimming, we've got a silver. And so, it's, there's always that. We always, when we're despondent and there's a war looming, then we revert to sport.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Good morning, everybody. Lance is in South Africa, as everybody would have surmised. Good morning, Mark. Thank you for joining us. Mark, you spent time in Africa, didn't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Actually, I was there just 2-3 years ago. Yeah. No, I think I was watching the swimming last night, and I think there was a couple of South African women who did very well. So
yeah, I think they both won the semi-finals. I think they sort of 1 and 2 in one of them.
Nice.
Great. Good morning, Andrew. Thank you for joining us. Where are you today? That's Andrew Telfer. Hello. Hello, Laurie. Good morning.
Hello.
Where are you today?
I'm in Ottawa today.
Nice. Well, welcome. Hello, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
We were having a Canada-Africa conversation a few minutes ago before you joined. So it is 2 minutes after the hour. Why don't we get going? Hello, Denise. Thank you for joining us. Other people will join. It is getting to be the holiday season, so we've had a couple of regrets and people saying, I cannot handle another Zoom conversation. I'm taking off. But Katie, why don't you kick us off and let's get going?
Yeah, for sure. So hey guys, welcome to our meeting for the Southern Ontario Impact Collaboratory. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Katie McNeil, the Events and Community Coordinator at Colleaga. I would like to introduce the man who was just speaking and welcome Dan Gordon, the board chair of Colleaga. And we also have our fabulous innovation Sherpas on the call today, and they're who you can reach out to if you have any trouble or technical difficulty or any questions. Just shoot us a Zoom message and we'll answer you. So just very quickly, I'll go over some Zoom ground rules. This is an interactive meeting, so we do ask everyone, if they can, to leave their camera on. Just remember to leave yourself on mute, just so we reduce any background noise. Because we don't actually have a lot of time today, we may not all be able to introduce ourselves on the call. So I do encourage everyone just to write a quick Zoom introduction. Just let us know your name, where you're from, what organization you're with. We've also made a post in our community with everyone's information. So if you're curious to see that, I've just shared the link in the chat. You can click on it, scroll through who's on the meeting today. All of their LinkedIn and all of your LinkedIn information is there, so you can easily connect following the session. So we're looking at about an hour-long session today. Dan's going to give an overview of Colleaga's Impact Collaboratories, and in specific, we're going to look at the Southern Ontario Impact Collaboratory and our subsequent FedDev proposals that we're looking to put in around specific projects. So we'll take a look at the partners that we have interested in joining our collaboratory, and we'll discuss some of the potential projects that we're looking at and some of the ones that we've been hearing are beginning to form. About halfway through, we're going to ask for feedback on what you've heard. We're going to ask for your take on how we might be able to strengthen our submission. We'd love to get all of your all of your input, sorry. So with that being said, I'll pass it off to Dan to tell you a little bit more about our collaboratory. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome everybody. Great to see you here, and thank you for the time this morning. We will keep on time. So we will move quite quickly, but we do want to leave quite a bit of time for interactive discussion. And what we'd like to do is really report back to you on what this is about and what we are learning about funding opportunities in particular. As sort of we all are aware of, and I think we've all been involved, social enterprise is a tough business. And what's particularly tough about it is creating the connections between purpose-driven entrepreneurial organizations and social enterprises, not-for-profits, and impact funders who want to find fundable opportunities. In order to achieve impact with populations who are at risk. And impact often doesn't happen. And the reason that it doesn't happen is because resources aren't optimally aligned in order for these projects to happen and for the outcome to be achieved. And that's really what we've been working on for the past couple of years is how do we create the collaborations? And today is a very good example between non-traditional partners who may not often get together. How do we incorporate impact funding pools? And there are a variety of new impact funding pools that are coming on stream. And how do we provide disciplined playbooks, resources, and transformation tools so that these collaborative projects result in projects, or what we call ventures, that do have the impact that's intended, but also provide benefits to all of the parties involved. And that is key. All of these projects have to meet all of our organizational objectives and our personal interests in order for the collective goal to be worthwhile for everybody. Because these are hard projects, they are characterized by very long sales cycles, by the need for multi-stakeholder collaboration, by regulatory barriers and by procurement barriers. We need to know why we're doing them and that they really are relevant and they're things that we have to do in order to have the staying power and the perseverance to get to the end point. And so that's what the Collaboratory is really about. We really do two things. As you can see today, we bring together the change makers, who we call fellows, and we ignite ventures. Those are the two things that we do. And we bring everybody else around that in order for those two things to happen. And if we all keep focused on what it is that we really want to do, that's when ventures will happen. And we have been global from day one. So we have Collaboratories. Welcome to Lance, who is running our Collaboratory in South Africa. He's having he's doing exactly this kind of work, bringing together the parties who want to do stuff, finding the funding sources, finding the customers, and finding the rationale for why impact projects should happen, and doing it in South Africa at a completely different scale to what we are doing in Canada. The only way to really scale this kind of work is to use technology. So we have built a number of different technological tools for us all to collaborate. You've seen the circle that Katie and team set up. What we also have is, when we say disciplined innovation, what we mean is our tools that are set up in order to structure conversations. So this is our hub. We provide all of the people in our Collaboratory with access to the hub. That's where you can find learning materials. That's where you can find project centers where individual projects can work on ventures together. with knowledge repositories and a whole bunch of other resources. All put together so that we can be working in a way that's most effective for us. I want to take you into the go-to-market course for impact ventures very briefly, mainly because it's so relevant to what we are doing today. And the key parts we want to talk to are, apart from, look, do this course because it's something that we need, and understanding why we're all together is an important first part of orienting. Secondly is let's figure out what the problem is we're all trying to solve and who we need in the venture. And then and we have innovation canvases and shared purpose tools to help us quickly come to an understanding of what it is we want to do and why we want to do it. And then we move into how to co-create the venture. And the key over here that I'd like to just show briefly is the Collaboration Venture Master Agreement. And this is something that we've put together over many years and many different kinds of ventures. What's important about it is that it is a master agreement that already sets up a statement of work, and the statement of work is what we will work on with groups. The statement of work boils down to 2 pages, and in fact, the FedDev proposal is a very good example of that. And what it covers off is, what do we want to do? Who are we? Who's really part of this? How do we do governance? What money is going to come in? What money is going to go out? And how do we deal with that? For intellectual property, we are always dealing with scale-up organizations and with social enterprises. And so background intellectual property always belongs to the party that brings it in. Work product is what we share. And then standard kinds of terms. And so really the top 4 articles are the things that we work on, and we can structure the engagement so that we can get through this quickly. And what that leads to then is the next stage of, with any of these deals, we are going out to find how we fund it in phases. And that means we need to be able to tell the right story, and tell the right story to the buyers of the deal, the collaborators on the deal. But the story is always different depending on who wants it. And we're going to see that again today. And lastly, then, tools around, okay, we've now got commitments, but how do you actually get to signed commitments? And that because it's an active learning program in the project center, that's where we would be documenting and providing the file structures and the templates where teams actually do the work together, and you can get access to that work and have that work broadcast out to you. So that's what we mean by technology-enabled structured venture building. Over the past probably year, we've been thinking about how to structure the Impact Collaboratory in Canada. We've had a version of it that has been around Toronto and larger Toronto. The version we're thinking about is Southern Ontario. Why it needs a geography like the South African Impact Collaboratory, or the one in Ghana that we are starting to put together, or the one in Dubai that we have now started to talk to the Dubai Futures Authority about, is because it's about place-based impact. And what we're interested in is who do we want to impact in place, so that we are taking a global perspective, especially for the entrepreneurial organizations, saying we are thinking about a global market, but we understand who locally we are going to be working with and impacting, because that's what impact funders most often want to fund. So, and what we've also started to do much more intensely is boil it down to a very key, simple message. Impact is about people and about planet. And when we put in, for example, in Ontario, that what we're interested is in impacting positively 5 million lives and taking 5 million tons of carbon out of the atmosphere that is speaking to people and planet. And what it provides for us, number one, is an orientation around quantifying impact. We have additional course materials and expertise around impact metrics and the GIN and how to think about quantifying impact and then how to evaluate that has actually been done. But it also provides us all with a way of thinking about how our ventures fit into this, this kind of rubric. The creating economic opportunities is also an important part of the calculation, because many of the funding, and you'll see that today, sources are around how do you create economic opportunity for the organizations involved or for the region. These are the organizations that we've started to engage in the Southern Ontario Impact Collaboratory. Many of the organizations are social enterprises like Second Harvest, like Covenant House is here today, like the Oasis Food Hub, the interested in themes around food security, the homelessness, mental health. And many of the organizations are around, are also involved, are entrepreneurial organizations like NextJ, who's on the call today, or TipTap. We are also engaged with the ecosystem orchestrators like Communitech or like Ryerson, who are saying this is part of our mandate and these are the programs that we run. And we want to make these programs available to the Impact Collaboratory so that members of the Collaboratory know about them, can use them, but also so that we can feed our graduates of our programs into the Collaboratory. So a Collaboratory is really quite a flexible arrangement. A lot of this is about, look, we need to create creative collisions, so that people who wouldn't normally get together understand what the opportunities are, meet people, and that's why meeting people and talking is such an important part of this, either online or through meetings like this. As a case study of a venture, we've been talking to a number of people in the collaborative around issues around homelessness, issues around mental health, issues around chronic disease. NextJ has got a fantastic system for chronic disease management. It has behavioral health modules, among others, for creating a circle of care. And we've also been including in that conversation the Toronto Alliance to End Homelessness. And we had a conversation with Mark Aston, who's also on the call today, to say, look, we're interested in providing customer proof points for NextJ. And we know that you are one of the foremost providers of homelessness services to youth. Can we make a venture happen? And so that's how that happens. And what the venture does is we start to say, look, let's bring us together. And what we need to define is who's the customer and who's going to be the investment partner and who are the other partners needed in order to make this succeed. This is what's happening at large. And this is the nature of a collaboratory like this. Organizations, entrepreneurial organizations coming together, connecting with organizations, finding ventures. And ventures, the key characteristic of a venture is that it is a multi-party agreement. And it's not straight supplier-customer relationships. It's about understanding that we're trying to do this together. And one organization might become a customer, but may not start off as a customer. Or there might be other ways that we need to structure the financial arrangements so that these projects can happen. But that's key. And I can see, Gavin, you nodding and saying, yeah, that's the nature of these. We are looking at food security projects. There's a great project that's starting to form around Second Harvest and excess food redistribution and providing an e-commerce facility. So we were looking for an entrepreneurial e-commerce SME who wants to get involved in that. And then there's a really interesting project around inclusivity in the impact investing space and designing programs for emerging impact managers to train up the next generation of impact managers. what's particularly interesting in that project is it's crossing geographies. And so the South African Collaboratory, which is now becoming the Sub-Saharan African Collaboratory, is finding partners and saying, yes, we want to do that together. And so many of these ventures, and in fact, this happened to the mental health venture as well, they cross geographies. And what that does for the entrepreneurial organizations is it provides customer proof points and international commercial opportunities. So the last thing I'll say, and so we can move on to the discussion, is that we are crossing all of Ontario with these kinds of themes that we've been talking about. Impact for us is broadly defined as impacting on people and planet. We're a virtual organization, so we have partners on the call today from all of these different locations. Joining to find out how this can benefit you, but also how we can collectively do things together. Partly the reason that driving this call today is there's now a substantial amount of FedDev funding that is available. It's available in 3 different funds. There's a regional innovation ecosystem fund, and that is the one we thought that we were moving towards. And that is to build and impact a regional innovation ecosystem. We've been reaching out to people. Thank you to all those people who've been providing us with letters of support. We are continuing on to keep on doing that. There's a second fund, which is Jobs and Growth, and that's just been announced. We had a very good call with FedDev this morning to talking about that. We'll feedback to you about that. And the third is community economic development, which is really around rural economic development. All of their themes are around building jobs and local economies and post-pandemic economic recovery. So this is a slide we put in about 15 minutes ago. This morning we had, and FedDev have been really good. They said to us, look, talk to us so we can help you to shape what it is you want to propose to us. Mark Olson and Brendan Thompson spent an hour with us this morning walking us through how we should be thinking. And they said, look, they were going to attend the call today, but they said, we've given you a lot of information. If you're going to make sausage, we'll leave you to make sausage together. The kind of sausages we're looking for are in our three bucketed areas. They said jobs and growth is an important one. And they said what is so important about that is to, number one, follow the application guide. And what the application guide says is, what is this specific project? So they said, this is really your starting point. You have to be able to articulate what this is and how that relates to the application guide. What they look for is really 4 things. Who is the applicant? What is the governance and financial structure of the applicant? What is the project? And what is its governance and financial structure? They are looking for collaborative projects. But these aspects change depending on which of their funds we're applying to. And the way that you fill in the application is what creates their scoring system. And so they said, look, understand that we've now got hundreds of applications and we're looking at dozens a day. You have to make it simple for us. That's the way to get it funded, what we're looking for. And as you fill in your application, and we'll take you through that, you are actually filling in our scoring rubric, and we're looking at it and we're discussing, looking at your narrative, which we'll show you is very short. And that's how we make our decisions. And we want to be, if an assessor is looking at dozens a day, you're getting 10 minutes of an assessor's time. So that sort of gives you a sense of how this needs to really sort of fit into what they are looking for. So what I'd like to do now is begin the conversation and open it up to the floor to say, look, what we've been talking about is regional innovation ecosystems and jobs and growth primarily. And what FedDev is interested in helping job creators and organizations supporting job creators to create better businesses, build resiliency, and grow. And the 4 things that they're interested in, what he said is, if your sausage is about a green, inclusive gazelle, that's what we want to hear about. We want to see a growing company that we can support to grow more. We're looking for inclusivity, and we want and if it's about green, that's even better. So we start opening this up to discussion and start asking for your feedback and questions about what is it that you want to ask about, or how do you think the project you're thinking about fits in with that rubric? Anyone like to kick us off?
Dan and Katie, it's Andrew Telfer here. I'm with Smart Cities Guelph Wellington. We're an arm's length office from the city of Guelph, working on circular economy initiatives here in the region. I'm sorry, what exactly are you asking from FedDev Ontario? Like, what's the amount of money, and how and where will it be used, and over what time frame? Those are my first questions. And then I guess my subsequent question is, in the documents that you shared yesterday, you mentioned something about city partners committing $500,000 each year for 3 years. And so I'm just wondering what that money would be used for as well. And if there's an expectation, if we became a partner, that Guelph would have to commit to $1.5 million over 3 years.
Let me take those things one at a time. We're talking to several cities to bring them into the Impact Collaboratory. Firstly, no, there isn't an expectation that cities need to provide $500,000 a year. Is the first answer. Secondly, actually, FedDev spoke about you this morning. They said you guys are doing a fantastic job on circular economy, and they've funded projects in Guelph, and they were very happy with that investment. The project that we are thinking about fits in with the FedDev, at least for this call, fits in with what FedDev is looking for. They're looking for a 3-year project. The amount of money they're looking for is somewhere between $500,000 and $10 million. On the upper end of the scale, they'd certainly be looking for significant matching funds. That's one of the criteria that they're looking for. And but what I got from the call this morning was, more importantly, was what they're looking for is small and medium. Their wheelhouse. They said we like to stick in our lane. It's about small and medium enterprise, and evaluation. They said, tell us about the project and how it helps that small and medium enterprise grow, and how it, and then sort of go back up and say, and who's the applicant? And if you're a for-profit applicant, then it's structured as a repayable loan. If you're a not-for-profit applicant, then it's structured as a grant. But key to them is, how does it help the company grow, and what is the specific project? What they're looking for really is the project going to succeed? Is there demonstrated history of success, and are they going to on the repayable side, are they going to get their loans repaid? And these are zero interest loans. Did that answer? So, Andrew, the reason we reached out to you is because we're looking at food security kinds of projects, and we know that Guelph has been a center of food security, and so you're part of the impact ecosystem. And ecosystem is about bringing people in and saying, what is it that you want to do, and how can we contribute and help to make it more successful? Errol?
Yeah, Dan, the so I saw you said there were the FedDev of these three categories. What are you thinking of and this group? Are we going under the regional one or the jobs and growth? And then, once we pick one, do we have to come up with a project, I assume?
That's right. Actually, Errol, what we're thinking about is actually the Impact Collaboratory is now starting to function.
Right.
Has been functioning, but now we need to move on. I think we're thinking about several projects. I think what we're thinking about is, and just going back to that diagram, I think there's definitely a Next.J centered project that is around one or more groups doing disease management and mental health. I think they look very favorably on that project. So that's certainly one we'd want to say, look, let's start forming the venture and the collaborative to do that.
But would that go through the jobs and growth one or
Yeah.
Right. So you actually have to, when you actually submit under one of these buckets. Okay, got it.
That's right. And so I think that they'd be very open to that, and it would fit in very nicely with what they're doing. Because it's about small and medium enterprise. And so another thing to point out, which is always the problem for we impact folks, they say, look, it's great that you're doing good, but that's not the way we measure stuff. In fact, let me just very briefly bring it up now. This is what they're looking for. How many jobs, over what period of time, how much foreign investment, new IP, how many new products and services, and sales,
Right.
and collaborations. That's what they want you to report on. So in that particular project, Errol, that's what I think we would do, is help to find the partners to form a very specific project that is in the wheelhouse. There's definitely a food security project that's brewing. I think that the Second Harvest is definitely interested in an e-commerce project. I think, Andrew, to the extent that this is of interest to you, we'll probably reach out to you and say, look, let's explain what this project is about. There is an Oasis Food Hub project and an aquaculture project. Scott, you're on the line. Scott, you want to just tell us in a minute sort of about Orbital Farms?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So yeah, Orbital Farms, we're developing both aquaculture projects, but also energy and food production projects. So we've got a couple different projects that we've explored here in Southern Ontario, but also some in the United States as well. But yeah, we're integrating food production and feed production as well as renewable energy projects together.
Thank you, Scott. And I will tell people that we met Scott well over a year ago, maybe even more than that. And that's the nature of an impact collaborative as well, is find the relationships over time, bring people in, keep on thinking about, okay, how can we do this and where's the opportunity? And the opportunity now, Scott, I think, is structuring another project around the Oasis Food Hub is particularly interested in this.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. Also, I mean, the Second Harvest component as well. We submitted an application to the food waste challenge that I think is part of this Second Harvest project. So there's certainly areas that we could contribute with an e-commerce like platform.
That's great. So I mean, there could be opportunity to do it there. And what's very interesting about the food waste is how much of a green project it is, and how many people's food security needs also results in massive amounts of carbon not being produced by methane coming out of landfill. So I think that would be another project that we would say, look, if you're interested, that's what we want to connect into. Andrew, to answer your earlier question, we would say, well, this is what's happening. Are you interested in participating in it, and in what kind of form? How does it fit in with your particular objectives? And there are Kevin Taylor from the Social Venture Exchange and James Chan from the Verge Capital and the Pillar Network are also on the line. We would reach out in the same kind of way and say, look, these are the projects we're doing. You are the impact capital, advise us on what it is that you want to see on the project that makes it fundable by you or by others. And that's the way we're incorporating the impact capital side into these projects. In addition, to be able to say that if it is a project that's in your wheelhouse and you are going to fund it, then that creates additional cash matching that makes it more possible for FedDev, and conversely de-risks the project for you. So that's the linkage with impact capital. From a city perspective, Andrew, we will also we've reached out to various groups in the City of Toronto, in the City of Kitchener, and in Guelph. And really, what we're looking for is how does this fit in with city priorities? How does the whole of us become greater than the sum of the parts? Other and emerging impact manager is another course. Kevin, can you perhaps just tell us, just a couple of sentences about your interest in the Emerging Impact Manager program?
Sure. I mean, so from right now what's happening obviously in the space in general is there's lots of new impact investment funds that are popping up all over the place. And there's a lot of value and dedicated resources around an impact investment fund manager course versus a typical VC fund. So there's lots of organizations and let us start looking at how do we provide the training and resources to those types of organizations. And SVX has a fund design and management practice that we're looking to actually help support all these growing and emerging funds, as well as organizations like the TIP, the Table for Impact Investing Practitioners, which is also helping coalesce and create connections across all these different intermediaries that provide funding to social enterprises. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities there to build coursework that but there's also expertise across Canada that likely would have interesting inputs into that.
Exactly. And we're thinking about the same way. And so really, I think for that one, it's which fund do we want to apply to, and how do we structure a collaborative that is results in impact training. That's another one where there's a real linkage to what's happening in Africa. Through our South African collaborator. And Lance, perhaps you can just speak a little bit about how that's connected in and who we're talking to there.
Sorry, Dan, you just want to repeat that? There was just a break in the comms for a moment.
I was going to talk a little bit about the conversation with Yavi Madurai and her interest in the Better Business Women's Association and getting involved in impact training.
So, I mean, although we started the Ubuntu Venture Studio primarily aimed at the youth segment here in South Africa, we have over time have found that there are many strong groups that operate across the borders and really focus on Africa. So in one of the latest conversations that we've had with a lady that heads up the Pan-African Business Women's Association, that looks at more regional-based organizations and ventures. So, I think the end game for us is to, with their very, very powerful network of associates, both venture funding and also channels into the different markets that we are aiming our venture studio, is to kick off in South Africa, but eventually to then farm out this initiative to other parts in Africa as well. So although we start regionally, there's a broader ambition through these groups that are already well established across the continent to work with them as well.
Thank you, Lance. And so I think that's the other opportunity is to think about how does this work from a global perspective. It's also linked in with Victor Beausoleil, who could not make it today, who's in Ghana. And because there are multiple African nodes, the African Development Bank is interested in this as well. So what this impact collaborative structure allows us to do is think about globally how these things work together, but execute locally. And execute locally means create local projects. Gavin, your thoughts from the seeds perspective?
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Dan. I'm primarily just sort of digesting all of this right now, and I'm trying to determine, what I could say at this stage that would be relevant. The main thing that comes to mind for me is, well, first of all, the seed is a food project at the Guelph Community Health Center, and the primary goal of the project is to use social enterprise to affect positive change in the area of food insecurity. And our goal is to work with others to make Guelph and Wellington County one of the first places in Canada where everyone has access to good food all the time. And our latest and so far biggest social enterprise is called Groceries from the Seed. And so I'm thinking about that social enterprise and how it might or might not relate to this work. Groceries from the Seed is, as far as we can tell, a pretty unique social enterprise that there aren't many examples of this model around the world, although I'm sure there are many, we just haven't found them. But it's a discount grocery service, essentially. So people who are experiencing food insecurity can purchase their groceries at a significant discount, and other members of Groceries from the Seed customers purchase at regular retail price, and their food dollars essentially funnel into the whole economics of the social enterprise to make it possible to offer those discounts to others. We're pretty early stages. We're about 8 months in to the whole thing, and so we are we've got big ambitions, and we have about 1,000 members right now purchasing groceries from us of various income levels. And we think that this model could be, and we still have to kind of prove this over time, but could be a really effective way that communities could address food insecurity by utilizing dollars that already exist in the community and resources that already exist in the community, and provide people who are experiencing food insecurity with a huge degree of choice and freedom to buy the foods that otherwise they're not able to buy.
So that's another good example of and the value of a collaboratory like this is surfacing a project like that. It's a fantastic project. How can we contribute to making it successful? And it may be through this particular funding stream that we can say, well, this is where we can contribute, or it may be through some other means later on. But this is sort of generally how this works. We keep on sort of meeting and collating and aggregating information, and then making it available to membership and having these kind of creative collisions. So I think we've got, in answer to the question earlier about, well, where do we go? There certainly is an application we should put into FedDev now for the regional innovation ecosystem. That's one thing we should do. We've already started that. Thank you to all those people who provide us with letters of support and with in-kind. We are going to complete that application, get it into FedDev, and then we're going to reach out to everybody on the call and say, well, who is interested in a specific application, and come into the collaboratory, and let's structure those specific applications, and we'll take you through the process and get those applications going. And do them in short order, because I think if you get out to sort of the end of August, the money will be spoken for. So it needs to get done quite quickly, and we know we can do these things quite efficiently. So when I say that we will take you through the process, this is what it means to complete a FedDev proposal. We sent you our white paper to try and give everybody a sense of, look, this is where we're thinking about it. It translates into a single form. And this form is very carefully structured. To give answers to the 4 questions that we spoke about earlier. Who are you? What is your governance and financial capability? And then what is your specific project and how is it governed? And what are the finances of the project? And does it meet our goals? And as Mark Wilson was saying this morning, we're getting so many, so we will read 1 page maximum for any answer to any question. And actually, it's 3,500 characters. A little longer than Twitter, but that's all it is. It's less than a page. These are the 5 main sections where they score the narrative. What is it that you want to do? Who are your partners? Do you need our funding? What else is going on? And we want to see that you've got a good plan. And the plan should be over a maximum of 3 years. Secondly, filling in this table. Let's look at your metrics. We're going to hold you to these metrics. Tell us what the metrics are. We will probably come back to you and ask you how you achieve them. And then the budget. And the budget looks something like this. Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Good. The budget is who's the partner and what is their contribution in cash and in kind, and what is the funding that they need. That feeds into the cost categories, really divided into labor, non-labor, which then gets divided out into years. And then there's a second section, which is total up all the by partner funding sources of cash and in kind, and tell us how committed it is. And so that's really what it means to fill in a FedDev proposal. So when we say that we will take everybody through a structured approach, that's what we mean. Is the first part of the structured approach is the courseware that we showed you that says, look, you're going to land up signing an agreement together, and the agreement is going to have these 5 sections. And really, the sections need to relate to what it is we're going to tell FedDev or another funding agency. Who are we? What are we going to do? And how specific is it? And keep it simple so that they can say, I can understand it in 1, 2 or 3 paragraphs and in one 10-minute assessment. And then go through each one of the other sections and quantify for them. So our suggestion out to all of us is we'll do that for the proposal that we're currently involved in. We're going to reach back out to you to ask you for, number 1, the letters of support. And we'll give you the template to say, here are the quantified benefits that we're looking for, budgets and contributions. And then we'll send the proposal out to you and say, this is what it looks like, and help us to strengthen it and to review it and strengthen it. The workload for anybody who wants to be involved in this is in the order of hours. So that you're getting back to us and you're giving us your viewpoint of thinking like a FedDev assessor, is this going to fly? And the second suggestion we're making is that there are some projects that which we know about. We will reach out to you about those. But if you want us to help you structure a project as part of our work in the Impact Collaboratory, we are happy to do that. So tell us what that project is, and we will see how we can bring a collaborative together and go through this process with you. Thoughts or questions?
So maybe just
I was just wondering.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. It's fine.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Thanks. I'll be real quick. I think I just want to comment on translating the white paper into the proposal. I think as you're sort of describing what this is, I think you may have heard from various partners. I know I've heard from others that a lot of the wording in there was a lot of the buzzwords and not a lot of the tangible details of what this is going to look like. So I think as you're structuring and putting this into the proposal, I highly recommend and encourage you to be very specific around what this is, as opposed to, using innovative, multi-stakeholder, collaborative, which are all wonderful sounding words, but I have no idea what they mean. So I think being clear on what that is and making sure that you're articulating what this is. And I think it sounds like you're now considering multiple applications. So one around the collaboratory and one potentially around the specific projects that are currently within the collaboratory, which probably makes a ton of sense. And that way you're more clearly defining the specifics around the values that Covenant House is running. And that's super exciting, as well as some of the other work that might be coming out of that through Second Harvest. So that's cool. But on the collaboratory itself, I think the other piece that would probably be worthwhile is understanding the ecosystem. There was a section specifically in terms of other folks working in this space. And I don't think that's necessarily the people on this call. I think the people on this call have the potential of being enabled by the collaboratory, but are not necessarily doing collaboratory work themselves necessarily. And I think that's where looking at organizations like SEDNet, like I mentioned, TIP, like there's a whole bunch of, I can't even name the hundreds of organizations across the country, across the province, across the city that are trying to do similar things. And that's where I think is an important piece to connect, is that this isn't, because I think right now it feels like this is an initiative that's sort of on its own and has some interesting partners that are part of it, but it's not connected to all the other things that are also happening. And I think FedDev's likely going to see applications that may seem very similar. And I think there's a disservice to both of those applications if they don't know about one another. So I think that's just an important part.
Absolutely. And what we find is that when we actually write the work plan and the milestones, that's what creates the, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. We just didn't include that, but we certainly will. Thank you, Kevin. Mark, you had a comment?
Yeah, I guess just picking up on a bit of what Kevin was talking about. I was just wondering about the scope of partnership and who could be brought in potentially. You know, obviously what I'm seeing on the ground is a lot of need for innovative ways to deliver mental health and addiction supports to young people. That's not just Covenant House, that's across the sector. It's recognized too by the health structures in Ontario. And I was particularly thinking about whether there's an opportunity here to engage with Ontario Health. You know, I don't know if people are familiar with the structure in Ontario, but essentially there's Ontario Health, there's 5 regions, and then there's these Ontario Health teams. Like there's one in the downtown east in Toronto that are made up of, you know, a number of organizations. The CEO of Ontario Health is Matt Anderson, who interestingly has a technology background. You know, I think he was the chief technology or whatever you call it, technology officer at one of the large downtown hospitals originally. So, you know, I know that, you know, there is interest in doing more on the mental health front. I'm just not sure that, well, I don't think the strategy isn't there yet. I mean, they have approaches and other things. So I'm just thinking there's an opportunity there, maybe. It might be a bit of a long shot, but to sort of see if there is interest from Ontario Health in supporting this. So, you know, that was just a kind of sort of out of the blue kind of comment. But, you know, on the whole job creation end of things, there's a real need for low barrier access to career ladder, again, that's going to result in livable wages for young people. And when I say low barrier, I mean with like no college or university requirement. And again, I think there's a real potential intersection with, you know, technology and, you know, IT-based solutions on that as well. So, I mean, anyway, just, you know, not sure how helpful that is, but a couple of thoughts.
Actually, it's very helpful. And just in sort of the 2 or 3 minutes, because I want to give us all time to sort of wrap up properly, I'd just like to comment on 2 aspects of that. I've known Matt for a long time. He's a very accomplished public servant. There's a reason that this stuff isn't happening. Like Ontario Health and, you know, between all of us, it's a mess. They've been trying to do strategy for years. There's a ton of money. I mean, you can do, Errol would be the best person to tell you, like we've tried to sell stuff to those guys and it's just impossible. And what happens is that they'd say, oh, well, great, but we've got to go through procurement and we're going to open it up to everybody. And, if you get procured and blah, 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 and it doesn't happen. That's exactly what this project is about, is solving that problem and saying you cannot go to the traditional buyers because you'll never get anywhere. And we need a different way of actually making impact happen. That is precisely why this hasn't happened in the past. Also, to your point of job creation, what we've been talking about, for example, with NextJ is including all of the health coaches and creating a stepped mental health model, where what we're doing is creating a layer between the hard to see professional therapists and psychiatrists and providing a much larger group of lay counselors and health coaches who don't have to have that training. That's where the jobs come from. The larger point for us all, I think, is the things that, at least for these funding rounds that will get funded, are these kinds of marketplaces and supply chain kinds of platforms where it's not about just a set of beneficiaries and one user, but it's about that it creates a set of users and a set of jobs. Those are the kind of projects that actually we do look for, because those are the ones that have got a much larger scale. If I am passionate about it, it's because this is exactly the reason that that we are doing Colleaga, because relying on public sector procurement and all of those kinds of issues, all due respect to our colleagues at the cities, many of whom would agree with us, yeah, it's just so difficult to get stuff to actually happen. And so what this is about is alternative ways to get impact to happen. That's why we think about alternative business models and around saying, look, let's get a project going, let's structure it let's get it in place, let's get a pilot and a minimum viable product going. And that will be a proof point that it will allow us to say, okay, now how can we find alternative customers? That is what Lance is doing in South Africa.
I do want to raise one point that I mentioned yesterday, Dan, is that it's the leading the horse to water and getting them to drink is two different things. That understanding the problems and why the cities aren't able to do procurement better is, I think, a really important place to start, because building a system that we think makes sense and is actually a better system isn't going to be approved just because it's awesome. There's a lot of red tape and other things that are behind the scenes that we may not be aware of. So it's really getting into understanding the problem before you start designing the solution.
100%, but not letting the barriers get in the way of actually doing it. It's like Robert Downey Jr. said, just because you say no, it doesn't mean we're not doing it. We're just not doing it with you. But we're still doing it. And finding ways to do that. And at some other point, I mean, the Oasis Food Hub is such a great example of that. Approved by City Council, everybody wants it to happen, and there are zoning laws that they just can't get through. That's, to your point, understanding what the problem is it's not technical, but it is a understanding that these are highly regulated environments. We need to deal with those things is important. So I'll just, in the last minute then, firstly, thank you all very, very much for coming today. This is what a collaboratory is about, is finding a bit of time, coming to a meeting like this, hearing what we all have to say, finding common cause. That's what we're doing today. We will reach out to obvious people, but if there's a project that you think that we should be doing, Denise, thank you for coming to the call. We will certainly reach out to you to find out how we can incorporate CSI and the great initiative you've got going on in Regent's Park into this. But please reach out back to us. You can use the circle. We have this group set up. To reach out to anybody on the call, feel free to go directly to people. What we wanted to be is a facilitator and a catalyst. And for those people who are involved in the regional innovation ecosystem, please get back to us with your letters of support. that is about funding this impact collaboratory to actually happen. So with that, we are on the hour. Thank you very much. If you are in Canada, we have a long weekend coming up. Have a great long weekend. In South Africa, thank you for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.